Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another week of the weekly Parsha, Parshas Vayeira. And I have to say, I didn't know if I was going to make it here tonight. I'm just running from the hospital where my father-in-law is. So I would like to dedicate tonight's shir as a schus of refuah shlema for my father-in-law, Alon ben Miriam. And I wasn't sure if I should leave him, I should not leave him. There was other people there that could take care of him. I told him, Abba, I have to go give a shir. And he said, Tatzliach, you should be successful. So I took that as a sign that I should come, and this should be a schus for his refuah shlema be'ez Hashem. Last week we spoke about the idea of the nisyonos, of the tests and the challenges that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends a person in their life. And we mentioned from the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos that if a person examines carefully what Hashem is doing to them, they'll see that the reason that HaKadosh Baruch Hu places them through one nisayon, one test after the other, is because of the great ava, the great love that He has for a person. Because that HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves a person so much, He puts them in a situation that will cause them to grow and cause them to come even closer to Him. And it gives us the opportunity, as we mentioned, to show our great ava, our great love for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When Hashem puts you in that situation, which requires you to dig in to yourself and bring out those koiches, that abilities that you have that you didn't even know that you had inside of you, so it causes you to do what's called mesiras nefesh. It is hard work, it is effort, pushes you to new levels, and everything that I'm doing to overcome the challenge in life is because I love HaKadosh Baruch Hu and I want to show Hashem how much this relationship, how much my connection means with Him. So in this week's Parsha is like the penultimate of all of the tests that Avraham Avinu goes through in his life. We know that this week, at the end of the Parsha, is Akedas Yitzchak, is the binding of his son Yitzchak on the altar. And I'd like to go through some of the psukim with the Ramban and the Sforno, because and the Chizkuni, because it sheds light on the whole world of nisyonos, of the challenges and the tests that a person will go through in their lifetime. And the pasuk says, "Vayachar devar me'ela," after these things, Velokim nisas Avraham. This is the only place in all of the 10 tests that Avraham Avinu went through where it actually mentions the word nisayon, a test. Velokim nisa es Avraham. Elokim, Hashem Himself, tested Avraham. Vayomer love, and He says, Avraham. Vayomer hineni, and Avraham says, here I am, Hashem. What can I do for you? What would you like? Vayomer, and He says, Kachna es bincha, take your son. And Avraham says, I have 2 sons. Es yechidcha, your only son. He says, I have 2 only sons. One from Hagar, and one is from Sarah. Asher ahavta, the one that you love. He said, I love both of my sons. What are you talking about, Hashem? Es Yitzchak, your son Yitzchak. I want you to take your son Yitzchak, that you davened a lifetime for, that you did not have until you performed the mitzvah of bris milah on yourself at 99 years old. And then when you were 100, I granted you, says HaKadosh Baruch, a miracle child, Yitzchak. He's 37 years old. You just spent the last 37 years of your life spending every waking moment that you could with your son Yitzchak. You taught him all of the Torah. You taught him all of Emunah. You taught him what it means to be a Jew, what it means to lead a nation, what it means to be Makarv, to bring people closer to Hashem. You were looking at Yitzchak to be the greatest legacy and the continuity of your mission that you have in this world. I want you to take him. I want you to go to the land of Moriah. I want you to bring him up over there. He's going to be a sacrifice. That son that you love so much, that you are endeared to, that you spent your whole life waiting for, that you went around the world, Avraham Avinu, and you told everybody all of this narishkeit, all the foolishness of avodah zarah, of idol worship, the foolishness of worshiping strange and gods who want you to take your children and sacrifice them, throw them in the fires and slaughter them? You, Avram, went around the world telling everybody what a ridiculous notion it is that a God would give you a child and then you should throw it into the fires? Or you should slaughter him and spill his blood on the altar? You know what? I'd like you to take your son, your only son, the one that you love, the one that you care about more than anything, bring him to the mountain, la'oila. I want you to bring him as a korban, as a sacrifice. The same exact thing that you told everybody never ever do, I want you to do it right now. And on one of the mountaintops that I'm going to show you and explain to you, that's the mountain that you should go and shecht and slaughter your son. Says the Torah over here, Ve'elokim nisa es Avraham, Elokim, God himself, comes and he tests Avraham with the most outrageous, most difficult, most incredible, most insurmountable test that a human being could possibly imagine. He passed already 9 monumental tests. Says Hashem, you're not done yet. There's one more that you have to pass. Akedas Yitzchak, take your son, the one you love, bind him on the altar, take a big knife and slice it through his neck and shecht him, and I want you to do that for me, says Hashem. Says the pasuk, did Avram waver? Did he argue? Did he sleep in the next day and say, you know what, maybe we'll push it off a day? Vayashkem Avraham ba'boker. Avraham woke up early in the morning the next day. He did not delay. And he saddled his own donkey. Avraham Avinu is the greatest man in the world. Great people don't have to put oil and gas in their car. They have servants to do such a thing. You don't have to go and mount your donkey and get it ready for yourself. You ask the servants to do such a thing. But Avraham said, no. If this is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants me to do, I followed everything to a T up until this point in my life. I wanted a child. I davened 100 years. He gave me a child. I taught him all the Torah. I'm ready to lead him as the next leader of the Jewish people of the world. Now Hashem says, shecht him. I'll wake up early in the morning with all the energy, with all of the zest. I'm going to saddle my donkey by myself. I want the mitzvah over here, says Avram. And he takes the 2 young men, Eliezer and Yishmael, ve'eis Yitzchak benoi, and Yitzchak his son, ve'yivaka atzei oila, and he already chopped up the wood for the offering that he's going to bring. Ve'yakam ve'yelech al hamakam asher amar lo Elokim, and he came and he went to the place that Hashem is going to tell him. Avraham Avinu, Hashem, whatever you say. Is that my test? To do whatever you say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu? I'm going to do whatever you say. And I'll show you how much I want to perform the mitzvah that you commanded me. I'll do everything by myself. No one's going to help me. No one's going to schlep the wood along. No one's going to load up my donkey in the morning. I will do everything at the crack of dawn to show you that I'm ready. I am here. Hineni, like he says, I'm yours, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'm ready to go. Says the Ramban, on these words over here, Elokim nisa es Avraham, Hashem Elokim, he tests Avraham. What does it mean that Hashem tests a person? Says the Ramban, Inyan hanisoyanhu, this Ramban, if we would live with this Ramban for the rest of our lives, then any time that life doesn't go the way that we planned it to go, anytime that Hashem throws us that curveball, anytime that there was something that was disappointing or frustrating or upsetting happening, a nisayon that Hashem is sending us, we will view our life and the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu interacts with us totally different. Says the Ramban, Inyan hanisayon, the concept of a nisayon, of a challenge, of a test in life is the following. L'daiti, I understand it in the following way. First of all, we have to get something clear, says the Ramban. Everybody in this world has free will. You choose in your life to do what you want to do. Nobody is pushing you, nobody is forcing you, nobody is pulling you in that direction. The permission is given unequivocally to every single person in this world. You may act the way that you want to. Im yirtze, if you want to do something, yes, you can do it. You want to do the right thing? Do the right thing. You want to do the wrong thing? You could do the wrong thing. Vim lo yirtze, if you don't want to do, if you don't want to do the right thing, that's your choice. Don't do the right thing. You don't want to do the wrong thing? Baruch Hashem, that's also your choice. Don't do the wrong thing. Yikare nisayon mitzad hamenusa. It is called a test through the eyes of the one that is being tested. As the Ramban is going to explain, everything that we're going to go through in life, every challenge, every test, in our eyes, it is a nisayon, it is a test. And I will choose to handle every test in my life the way that I want to. I will either overcome and I will pass it with flying colors, or I will crumble and I will fail and I will stumble and I will weaken and I will fail the test. However, Aval hamenase yisbarach, but the one that is testing us, the Ribbono Shel Olam, Yitzave boilo hoitzi adavar min hakoyach el hapoyel. HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself, why is he giving us the test? It's our test. Hashem, remember, Hashem knows what we are capable of doing. Hashem knows if you can overcome the test and pass it or not. So then why is HaKadosh Baruch Hu testing us? If he knows already what we could accomplish, why does he need to give us a test? If I have a straight A student in my class, so I don't need to give him the quiz, I don't really need to give him the test over here. I know already that the guy is going to ace it with flying colors. So why does Hashem test us? Says the Ramban, it's not for him, it's for you. Lahoitzi hadavar min hakoyach el hapoyel, to bring out the potential that was inside of you, lapoyel, to action and to reality and to fruition. Every single person is loaded up with tremendous amounts of spiritual potential. Every person has godless, has greatness that is residing inside of them. Every person could reach places in their life that they never ever dreamed of. Each and every one of us can do that. Says the Ramban, every nisayon, every test that Hashem sends your way is because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants you to recognize what greatness you actually have inside of yourself. So he pushes you into a situation that forces you to make a decision. And if you use your bechira, your free will, in the right way, you will make the right choice, and you'll be moitzi koyach el hapoyel. You'll bring that great potential that's inside of you into reality. Liyos leischar ma'aseh tov, so you'll get rewarded for the good deed that you do. Lo yischar leiv tov b'lvad, not just the reward for having a good heart. Says the Ramban, everybody has a good heart. Everybody is a tzaddik, is a righteous person in the making, just waiting to happen. Everybody is. But if you never become that righteous person, if you never become that Adam Gadol, that great person in this world, if you never bring out of yourself all of those well springs of Amunah and Bitachin and Mesiras Nefesh, dedication to Hashem, then you just receive reward for being a great person in potential. But that pales in comparison to the person that becomes the great individual. It pales in comparison to the person that's actually living their Amunah and living their Bitachin and becoming someone that is willing to be committed and dedicated and give up of themselves for the sake of Hashem. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I love you so much. I want you to get the greatest benefit in this world. So when I put you in the challenge is going to bring out the best in you. And then when you make that right choice and you do the Ma'aseh Tov, the good deed, you will get rewarded as such. But the Ramban is not finished. And he quotes a verse in Tehillim. V'da, you should know, Ki Hashem tzadik yivchan. Hashem tests the tzaddik, the righteous person. Keshu yoideya bat tzaddik sheyaseh ritzoynai. HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows that the righteous man is going to do the will of Hashem. V'chafetz latztiko, and Hashem wants to make him into a bigger tzaddik. And therefore he commands him and he challenges him with a test, because Hashem knows that you're going to become a much greater person as a result of the test. Hashem knows what we could do. Hashem knows what we could accomplish. He will never, ever send a person a challenge that they cannot overcome. On the other hand, if the Ribbono Shel Olam is sending me that challenge, he's sending me that test, he is rocking my world, as they would say, it's only because there's something so much deeper inside of myself that if I'll just plug into the world of Hashem, I'm going to become great. Every nisayon, a nisayon, like it says in Tehillim elsewhere, nesli his noises, every nisayon is to elevate the person. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if I'm testing you, you know what that means? You're a tzaddik. You know how many people, they get thrown into these nisyonis in life, things are going along, not so beautiful and not so pretty, they say, oh, I must be such a rasha. I've done so much bad. Otherwise, why else would Hashem send this my way? Says the Ramban, you're thinking opposite of the Torah. The Torah is saying the exact opposite. If you're going through a nisayon in life, if you're being tested in life, if it's a struggle and it's hard, that means you're a tzaddik. Because Hashem only tests tzaddikim, the righteous people, because He knows that they will respond to the challenge properly. They will bring out the koichais, the great potential inside them, and become even a bigger tzaddik, even a greater person. However, v'lo yivchan es harishayim, He's not going to test the wicked people of this world. Asher lo yishvu, because they won't listen to Hashem anyway. V'nei kol hanisyonos shebaTorah. Every challenge that we find written in our holy Torah, l'toivas hamenusa, is all for the benefit of the person that is being tested. And that's not only in the Torah, that is in our lives as well. Every single nisayon that a person will go through in their life is to make them a much greater person, if you respond properly. Why do people fail tests? Oh, Kodesh Baruch will never give me a test that I can't handle. I failed the test, Hashem. What do you want from me? Must be you gave me a test that's too hard for me to handle. The answer is, you didn't understand what a tzaddik you really are. You didn't understand the greatness that you have inside of you. You didn't see and peer into your neshama and see the reason that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing this is because there's so much potential that's inside of you. I'm going to become great. And I looked at myself as a tiny little person, and I didn't see the koichais, the potential that's enmeshed in my neshama. And I didn't see the power to make the right decision that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given me and to empower myself. I didn't do it. And therefore I chose wrong. And I failed the test. But every test that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends to a person is really for my benefit. Because if I respond in the way that I'm supposed to respond, so then I'm going to become a much greater person as a result. Just on Sunday, I was in Baltimore. One of my principal Rebbeim, I spoke about him on Shabbos in the drasha of Ezra Newberger Zatzal. I wasn't able to make it to the Levaya, to the funeral, but I was able to go pay a shiva call to his family. And while I was there, the unexpected, you know how it works in life. You think you're going to meet one person to get chizuk, to get inspiration. You think one thing that you're going to see is what's going to inspire you. But something out of left field is that which ends up giving you the inspiration. Remember, Rabbi Graydon once told me before the Yomim Narayim, he says, everybody thinks when they're going to get to this part of the tefillah, this part of the davening, that's where you're going to have the goosebumps and you're going to start crying. And when you hear this drasha, that's when you're going to really get into the mood of Rosh Hashanah. He says, sometimes the way that it works is that when you least expect it, in that one line in the machzor that you maybe never ever paid attention to, happens to be this year you read the words carefully, in the place that you might least expect it when you were not looking for it, that's where the inspiration is going to come from. So I had already seen my Rabbi, Rav Tzvi Berkowitz, and spent a good 20-25 minutes with him. I went to the Shiva house already and I saw the brothers of Rav Ezra, my Rebbeim, Rav Shagi Newberg and his brothers. I saw his children. I told them some stories that I had from him. I saw a lot of old friends of mine. We converged in the Shiva house and outside. It was very amazing to see. And then I went back to the Beis Midrash in the yeshiva one last time. I was looking for one person, I couldn't find him, but as I look up, I see sitting in the front of the Beis Midrash, my first Rebbe that I ever had in the yeshiva almost 30 years ago. His name is Rav Nosson Nussbaum. Rabbi Nussbaum, when I was in his shir, he wasn't a young man. He was an amazing, amazing person. He was already probably in his, I would imagine, his 60s, and he was in Shana Rishona, the first year of marriage. How could a man in his 60s be in the first year of marriage when he has children and grandchildren already? Because unfortunately, I think the year before I came to the yeshiva, his Rebbetzin of many years was in a car accident and she passed away. And so now he was an older single man and he got remarried. And the year that I was in his shir, he was first year of marriage. And it was very cute the way that he and his new wife were interacting with each other, and they used to invite us over for meals to their house, and the whole thing was cute, and it was inspiring to all of us to see this older man, the way that he was getting used to a whole new way of life, and his new wife was a very special lady, but it was getting used to a whole new life. And he did it with a smile on his face, and with jokes, and with treating us, the young Bachrim, to what it means, Shalom Bayis. So this is a man who knew what challenges are all about in his life. And I walk into the Beis Midrash and I see, sitting in a wheelchair, with his legs wrapped in braces, he can't even move, sitting over a Gemara, hunched over a Gemara with a big magnifying glass and a light shining out of the magnifying glass, Rav Nussbaum. I'm making calculations. He must be close to 90 years old, if not more. And I see this picture, and I walk over. I say, Rabbi Nussbaum, Rabbi Nussbaum. And he looks up at me. I said, Dovid Horowitz. I said, oh, he says. I said, this is the most amazing sight that I've ever seen. He said, what, you caught me sleeping? I said, no. I said, to walk into the Beis Midrash and to see you in a wheelchair. And you're steiging, you're learning Torah. It is amazing, Rabbi Nussbaum. I said, it was worthwhile to come to Baltimore just to get the chizuk, just to get the inspiration that you've given me. And then we spent like the next 10 minutes. I began telling him stories that I remember from when I was in his shir almost 30 years before. Even jokes, he's a very funny person, even jokes that he said in the middle of the shir, we were laughing. And he was getting very emotional. Some of the things I was telling him, he was crying. I saw Baruch Hashem was giving him a chizuk. And then in the end, he says to me, he says, what's going to be? I'm an old man. I'm in a wheelchair. I can't even move. But then he catches himself. And then he looks at me and he says, but you know what? Everything the Eibishter does, everything Hashem does, is good. Hashem is good. And everything that Hashem does is good. And then he starts saying, Baruch Hashem, I have a wonderful wife. I have wonderful children and grandchildren. And the yeshiva, he says, they are so kind to me, the way they've taken care of me in these later years where I can't even give shir anymore. And then he says, but now that I can't give shir, you know what I do? He said, I wrote 4 svarim already in these later years. And then he turns to me and says, what did we learn together when you were in my shir? So it's an amazing thing, the way that it works in yeshiva. You know how you know your Rebbe? What you learn from him. And right away I said, Gittin. We learned Masechta Gittin. He said, oh, I wrote a sefer on Gittin. I have to give you my sefer. I have to give you my book. I said, so that's it, Rabbi Nussbaum. That's how you get through life? You just see the positive, you don't think about it? He says, that's the only way you're going to get through life. You see the positive, you speak about the good, you see all the good and all the chesed Hashem does, and you don't think about the negative that's there. That's how life works. And then I thanked him profusely, and we smiled at each other, and he was grateful that I came over. I was even more grateful. And then I went on my way. Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu give Rabbi Nussbaum such struggles, such challenges? Sitting in a wheelchair, his legs don't work, he has to be pushed around. He can't give shir anymore the way that he used to, with bachrim around him. No. But the image of that tzaddik sitting there in that wheelchair, sitting and learning with a smile on his face, thanking Hashem for everything that he has, says the Ramban that kol hanisyonos shebaTorah l'toivos hamanusa, every challenge that a person goes through in life is all for your benefit. Because it brings out koiches, it brings out powers and wellsprings of strength, of spiritual conviction that you never ever knew that you had before. That's the purpose of a test. So don't look at yourself as a bad person if things are not going your way. It's HaKadosh Baruch Hu saying, you're a tzaddik, you're a righteous man. And because that you are a righteous man or a righteous woman, that's why I'm challenging you, that's why I'm testing you. Because I want you to become even greater. The Rishayim, the wicked, they don't understand what I'm doing to them. I didn't even bother testing them, but to you, you become a tzaddik, even a bigger one, even greater. That's the way the Ramban says over these words. The Chizkuni, one of the other great commentators, says over the following idea. And he says like this, Lasha nisayin, what is a nisayin, what does a test mean? Loi nisol bishroloi. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not testing a person for himself. He doesn't need to know if you can pass the test or not. Sha'akol golui lefanav, because everything is already revealed to Hashem. My shahayo v'hoive v'asid liyos, whatever was, whatever is, and whatever will be in the future, HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows everything already. But rather HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings a person to a challenge in their life. You know why you're being challenged? The reason that you are being challenged is other people are going to watch the challenges that you go through in your life. They're going to see how beloved your heart is to the Ribono Shel Olam, how much you are doing the ratz and the will of Hashem, and you will inspire other people to have the inner strength and conviction to go through their challenges and their tests in life. You're being used, so to speak, by HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the most powerful and meaningful way. Hashem knows that you can overcome the test. Remember, you'll never get anything unless you could overcome it. So why is Hashem doing it then? He doesn't need to put you to the test. He knows that you can overcome it. He knows already what's going to be. Because you become a shining example to the people that are around you when they see the way that you spiritually, maturely go through the challenges that are there in your life. And they say to themselves, if he can do it, if she can do it, if they overcome, wow, that was a hard test. How in the world did they overcome that? But they did it. You know what? I can do it also. I'm not going to throw in the towel. I'm not going to be down on myself. I'm not going to get weak right now. I'm not going to fetch and complain all day long. Why me? HaKadosh Baruch Hu? No. Just as this person over there overcame the challenge of their life, I in turn am going to do the same thing. Both the Ramban and the Cheskuni understand in the world of nisyonos, of challenges, that the reality is HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not need to test you for his own knowledge, because he would never ever send you anything that you can't overcome yourself. And therefore, whatever he's sending you, you could overcome. If only you believe in yourself. If only you'll believe that the reason that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing this is because he holds of me. He believes in me. He says I'm a tzaddik. He wants me to become a greater tzaddik. And because perhaps what I'm going to go through and what I'm going to deal with and what I'm going to conquer and what I'm going to grow in, that's going to inspire somebody else around me to dig inside of themselves and to face their challenges and to overcome them in ways that they never dreamed of before. You know, in all these podcasts, the Jewish podcasts are filled today. They take people that had like the worst lives in the entire world. If you didn't have a bad life, you can't make it onto a Jewish podcast these days. So if you didn't get invited, that means, Baruch Hashem, you must have a pretty good life. So you have to have like the worst life in the world. You were like near death 100 times. You lost, I don't have to go into all the details over there, but so you were on drugs and alcohol, and you were in the ER, and they thought you were going to die. You had an out-of-body experience. You came back to life, and you started dancing in the hospital room, and you decided from now on, I'm going to be the happiest person in the world, and now you're on the podcast. Why are we fascinated by all these people? We're fascinated by the person that had the worst life, and this one had the craziest life, and this one had the roughest life, and this one was very sick, and they had a miracle, they got better, and this one lost 3 limbs, and they're still going forward in life. Why are we fascinated? Because we see someone that is going through such a challenge in their life, and they are dealing with it, and they are facing it, and they are overcoming it. And then I think to myself, if that person who went through so much can overcome their challenges, then how can I not overcome mine? My life is not as bad as theirs. I'm not going through the horrors that they're going through. So how is it possible that I can't overcome the nisyonos, the challenges and the tests that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent my way? And so we're fascinated on the Jewish podcast by the people that have the most difficult challenges that we could ever dream of in our lives, and they're doing it anyway. There was one podcast, I remember the person's name. He was run over by a train. Do you know what that means to be run over by a train? I don't, but I certainly would not want such a thing. And it ran over his legs. He lost both of his legs. And the whole story, it was a kid, he was drugs and this and that, and he was down and out, and he was walking down the street, and he tripped over the train track, and he got stuck there, and he sees the train coming, and he realized he's in very, very big trouble, and the train comes, and that was his wake-up call in life. When he woke up from his coma or whatever he was in the hospital, and he saw that he no longer has legs, that was his wake-up call. It's time to get your act together, young man, and start taking life seriously. It's not a joke. And he transformed himself. He ended up becoming a Baal Tshuva, a frum person, as a result of everything he went through. And now he's going around the world being mechazik, inspiring other people. If I could overcome what I did, you could overcome what you did. No one lost legs in a train track, in a train wreck. Nobody he was thrown like 100, 200 feet into the air. Nobody's going through that, Baruch Hashem. Whatever we have is small potatoes compared to that. And in our minds, everything is big. In our minds, because every test that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends each individual is tailor-made for them to give them the greatest chance of revealing the greatness of their neshama that's inside. You're not a rasha, you're not wicked, you're not a lowlife, you're not a bad person who did so many bad things, and therefore Hashem is punishing you. A challenge that you're receiving in your life is because you're righteous. You're a tzaddik, you're a tzaddikis, and Hashem says, I don't test everybody. I only test the people that I know are going to respond in the right way. And if you realize what you have inside of you, if you understand the koichos, the powers that Hashem has given you, and He's helping you reveal it, then you will pass the test with flying colors, and you will become a tzaddik par excellence you never ever dreamed of becoming in your life. There is a Hasidic Rebbe whose name is the Mevakshe Emunah Rebbe. The name itself, just to translate, you should understand, means Mevakesh, he's yearning for Emunah. Okay? Yearning for faith. That's the name of this Hasidus, Mevakshe Emunah. He had a Chassid who got married. And 1 year after the next, no children. 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, no children. 20 years, no children. 25 years, no children. 26, 27, no children. After 28 years of marriage, the man and his wife who had no children, mamish like Avram and Sarah, suddenly after 28 years, the fellow was already in his 50s, they could have a child. And of course, when this child was born, the man and his wife, they were elated, they were ecstatic, they were jumping up for joy, thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the chesed that a child was born. And he went to his Rebbe to share the great news. Rebbe, after 28 years, 28 years of tears, of brachas, of going around to the Gedolei Yisrael, the great leaders, and getting their blessings, of going to the Kivrei Tzaddikim, to the graves of the righteous, and davening there. All the Shmoneh Esreis, all the Tehillim, everything. Finally, after 28 years, HaKadosh Baruch Hu heard my prayers. Hashem answered us, and we're zeich, we merit to have children. Said the Rebbe the following: do you know why HaKadosh Baruch Hu answered your prayers after 28 years? And he said, because the same way that you davened 28 years earlier, when you were a young man, and you believed in HaKadosh Baruch Hu that Hashem put a husband and a wife together to bring children into this world. And you davened under your chuppah and you're saying, please HaKadosh Baruch Hu, give us a beautiful mishpacha, beautiful family, beautiful children to do your service, Hashem. And after the first year when it didn't happen, you kept davening, Hashem, we're still young, we're still spry, we can have children. And 5 years and 10 years, you kept davening with the same amunah, the same faith, the same belief and trust in Hashem. Hashem, you can do anything, give us children. Most people, 28 years of davening for the same thing, you start to give up a little bit. You start to weaken in your prayers. You start not believing in your heart that it could actually happen. But you, he said, for 28 years, you never stopped believing in your heart of hearts, in your world of Amunah, that just as HaKadosh Baruch Hu can give a child to a young couple, He can give it to a couple that's 28 years old. And so therefore, right now in your life, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees, just parenthetically, the gematria of 28, 2 and 8, is koyach, is strength. You kept davening with koyach, with strength, all of those years. Hashem says you passed your test. You rose to the challenge. You didn't feel bad for yourself and say to your wife, what's going to be? It's never going to happen. No, you kept believing in Hashem. And I heard a story like this from another person himself. There's a family in Far Rockaway. The Sitnik family, they were married 25 years. They did not have children. Now, Rabbi Sitnik himself, he went gray at a relatively young age. So he had a white beard, white hair, white payas. He was not a young man. 25 years, they didn't have children. They finally had a child after 25 years. Friends of mine that were at that Shalom Zacher that Friday night, they said the house was moving back and forth, the dancing, the singing, the joy that was in that room was ecstatic. And somebody asked Rabbi Sitnik at the table by the Shalom Zacher, the Friday night that the baby was born, Rabbi, how were you zeich? How did you merit to have children after 25 years? And he said, there's not a single day that has passed in the last 25 years that I didn't daven that Hashem should give me a child. That means his amunah and his bitachon and the nisayon, the challenge that he was in, he never gave up, because he said, if Hashem is putting me through this, there must be a reason. Hashem believes in me, Hashem loves me, Hashem knows the greatness I have, and I'll just keep davening and do more and more and more. And how many people were inspired that night when they heard these words from Rabbi Sitnik, and they said, if he didn't stop davening, and my wife and I only 3 years into marriage with no children, we're not stopping the daven. And we're 10 years, we're not stopping the daven. Because if you believe, and you pull out the koiches, the potential that's inside, you've passed the test, and you become a shining example to everybody around you. So this is the great lessons in this week's Parsha, Parshas Vayeira. It's not for naught that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave Avraham Avinu the final nisayon, the final test in his life, and Avraham Avinu rose to the challenge on such a miraculous way. V'yashkem Avraham b'boker, he woke up early the next morning, crack of dawn. He saddled his donkey, he got the wood, he chopped the wood. Let's go. You're an oiler, you're a korban, Yitzchak. And Yitzchak, who understood what was going on, he said, yes, Abba, yes, Tati, I'm ready to go. Now the Midrash tells us over there, it's interesting because it's not called the Nisayon of Avraham Avinu. It's called Akedas Yitzchak, the binding of Yitzchak. Yitzchak is the one that is remembered. At this moment, he was the one that was bound. And the Midrash says, what was the binding of Yitzchak? Yitzchak was so excited to do the will of Hashem. He knew that this is an nisayon that's of enormous proportions. He says, Abba, I'm so excited. I'm shaking so much from the thrill of doing the will of Hashem. I'm afraid that when the knife comes down, I'm going to want to do the mitzvah so badly, I'm going to move the wrong way. And we have a thing in shechita, in slaughtering, that if the knife doesn't go through the windpipe in the right way, the shechita is no good, cannot be offered as a korban. He said, Abba, do me a favor, bind me tight on the altar, so that nothing of my body is going to move, so that when the knife goes through, it's a clean slice, and you can offer me as a korban. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Avram, you passed your test. Yitzchak, you passed your test. Avram is about to check them. Avraham, he's so focused. He's up. Avram, Hineni, what Hashem? Hold your hand back. Don't touch the boy. You passed your test. Ata yedati kiyir l'kimata. Now I knew, in the grammar of the Hebrew, now I knew that you are a God-fearing man, which means now I know what I always knew, but now you know the greatness that you could achieve. Your nisyonos are not your enemies. Your nisyonos are your greatest friends. Because every nisayon that a person will go through makes them a tzaddik. A tzaddik is even greater than they ever were before. And Hashem would never send it unless He knows that you can overcome it. So let us not get broken by the nisyonos. Let's not get angry with HaKadosh Baruch Hu by the challenge that He puts us through. Let's not waver and get weak, rather be stronger and stronger and stronger. And that's the chus in Yitz Hashem. As Avraham Avinu became the great father of Klal Yisrael, and Yitzchak goes down in history of the binding of Yitzchak. So Yitz Hashem, in the chus of our nisyonos that we overcome, will become great. The people around us will become great. And Hashem will bring us to the ultimate goodness and the greatness that He has in store for all the thousands of years of nisyonos that Klal Yisrael has gone through and overcome. And that's with the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu b'imheira v'yameinu.